Dead. One of them shot by the sea in the east, and one of them shot in the west by the sea. Dead. Both my boys. When you sit at the feast and are wanting a great song for Italy free, let none look at me. Yet I was a poetess only last year, and good at my art for a woman, men said. But this woman, this, who is agonized here, the east sea and west rhyme on in her head forever instead. What art can a woman be good at? Oh, vain! What art is she good at? But hurting her breast with the milk teeth of babies and a smile at the pain? Ah, boys, how you hurt! You were strong as you pressed, and I proud by that test. What art's for a woman? To hold on her knees both darlings, to feel all their arms round her throat, cling, strangle a little, to so by degrees embroider the long clothes and neat little coat, to dream and to dote. To teach them, it stings there. I made them indeed speak plain the word country. I taught them, no doubt, that a country's a thing men should die for at need. I prated of liberty, rights, and about the tyrant cast out. And when their eyes flashed, oh, my beautiful eyes, I exulted. Nay, let them go forth at the wheels of the guns and deny not. But then the surprise when one sits quite alone, then one weeps, then one kneels. God, how the house feels. At first, happy news came, in gay letters moiled with my kisses, of camp life and glory, and how they both loved me, and soon coming home to be spoiled in return would fan off every fly from my brow with their green laurel bow. Then was triumph at Turin. Ancona was free, and someone came out of the cheers in the street with a pale face as stone to say something to me. My Guido was dead. I fell down at his feet while they cheered in the street. I bore it. Friends soothed me. My grief looked sublime as the ransom of Italy. One boy remained to be leant on and walked with, recalling the time when the first grew immortal, while both of us strained to the height he had gained. And letters still came, shorter, sadder, more strong, written now but in one hand. I was not to faint. One loved me for two, would be with me ere long, and viva l'Italia, he died for our saint, who forbids our complaint. My Nani would add he was safe and aware of a presence that turned off the balls, was impressed it was Guido himself, who knew what I could bear, and how 'twas impossible, quite dispossessed, to live on for the rest. On which, without pause, up the telegraph line swept smoothly the next news from Gaeta. Shot. Tell his mother. Their mother, not mine. No voice says my mother again to me. What? You think Guido forgot? Our souls straight so happy that, dizzy with heaven, they drop earth's affections, conceive not of woe? I think not. Themselves were too lately forgiven through that love and sorrow, which reconciled so the above and below. O Christ of the 5 wounds, who look'st through the dark to the face of thy mother, consider, I pray, how we common mothers stand desolate, mark, whose son, not being Christ's, die with eyes turned away, and no last word to say. Both boys dead? But that's out of nature. We all have been patriots, yet each house must always keep one. 'Twere imbecile hewing out roads to a wall, and when Italy's made, for what end it is done, if we have not a son. When Gaeta's taken, what then? When the fair wicked queen sits no more at her sport of the fireballs of death crashing souls out of men, when the guns of cavalry with final retort have cut the game short? When Venice and Rome keep their new jubilee, when your flag takes all heaven for its white, green, and red, when you have your country from mountains to sea, when King Victor has Italy's crown on his head, and I have my dead. What then? Do not mock me. Ring your bells low and burn your lights faintly. My country is there, above the star pricked by the last peak of snow. My Italy's there, with my brave civic pair, to disfranchise despair. Forgive me. Some women bear children in strength, and bite back the cry of their pain in self-scorn, but the birth pangs of nations will wring us at length into wails such as this, and we sit unforlorn when the man-child is born. Dead! One of them shot by the sea in the east, and one of them shot in the west by the sea. Both, my boys. If in keeping the feast you want a great song for your Italy free, let none look at me.
So we did the poem Mother and Poet, and we're using the soapstone method. So as the title says, she's a mother and poet. She's Italian. She has lost both of her sons in the war, and both of the things in the title, the mother and poet, define her character, but she feels as if her title of mother was taken away because, as it says in this stanza, no voice calls my mother again to me, because both of her sons have died. She was also in the time where women were thought of as only useful in the domestic setting, so her poetry was something that she used to stretch her talents and be more independent of the household. And you can see this in some of the first stanzas when she's talking about what art can a woman be good at except for hurting her breast with the milk teeth of babes and a smile at the pain. So that's like, women are only good for being mothers. They can't have artistic talent, but apparently she's good at this for a woman. She's also patriotic and pushed her boys to fight for their country of Italy. She taught them to speak plain, the word country. But as of the end, when her sons have passed, she's no longer as patriotic. She's solemn and regretful that she pushed her sons to do this. It says, "You want a great song for your Italy free, then none look at me." The occasion of this poem, it's after a past Italian war. Women were thought of as only useful in domestic settings at this time, so her poetry was quite a surprising talent of hers. Women were also expected to stay strong after losing family members in the war, and she references this and she says, like, I know I'm supposed to be strong, but this is hard. So that's an admission from her. And this is also somewhat a memorial for her sons and her title of mom, because it is no longer her title because her sons have passed. The audience is mostly the people of Italy. When she talks about you, when you have your country from mountain to sea, when King Victor has Italy's crown on his head, then she says, and I have my dead. So she's referencing all the celebration that's happening in her country, and she's like, while you're celebrating, I will be in pain from the loss of my sons. But it's also towards other mothers, people who have lost family members or loved ones in the war. So the purpose of this poem was to share the story of how her boys died in the war and the effects that it has had on her as a mother and how she perceives herself. One of the main lines that I took this from is from this stanza where she says, and when Italy is made, for what end is it done if we have not a son? So she's referencing her title as a mother, and she's questioning, what am I without my boys? Am I really a mother? She's also questioning her title as a poet because of her status as a woman in society. So this poem is a lot about the perception of herself and how the passing of her boys has affected her. The subject of this poem is a mother's experience of losing her sons in the war, and also how she prepared them and just her relationships with her sons overall, and the perception of herself before and after the war, and certain things that she looks back on. The tone of this poem is purposeful. She's very determined to say what she wants to say. She seems very self-assured in what she wants to say and her opinion. It's also regretful because of how she prepared her sons for war, taught them how to say the word country, was very patriotic, and then in the end, she was no longer as patriotic for her country because she said that her country was with her sons. So she's no longer patriotic for Italy, but for her home that is her sons. It's also nostalgic as she remembers the times when she would get happy letters, and then it shifts to a more solemn tone as the letters get more and more sad and filled with more pain as her sons die and go through the agony of war.